currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition, first broadcast of 2013. It is January 2nd, 2013, and I couldn't think of a better way to bring in the new year and a better guest to have on for my first live broadcast of 2013 than my good friend, Mr. Michael Murphy. Mike, welcome back to the broadcast.
Hey, it's great to be on, and I really feel honored to be the first guest in 2013. So thanks for covering this issue. We're making a lot of traction.
You know, your movie has just exploded. And I know the first one took off, and we talked about the first one. We talked about the hopes for the second one before it had come out. But I really think that it has exceeded a lot of what you guys really even thought was going to happen with it. The movie's just taking off. People are starting to look up, and they're looking in the sky, and they're saying, "What the hell is that?" when they see the white lines, because they're starting to realize that's not normal. I mean, look, let's be honest. It's not normal to see grid patterns and stuff in the sky, is it?
Not at all, no. And we've just really began to see that, at the level, probably in, the past 10 to 15 years. And we're seeing an increase literally everywhere of aerosols and the contamination. So what in the world are they spraying was, I guess it was considered to be the groundbreaker, the first credible film with documentation. Why in the world are they spraying has taken off. We've had a lot of mainstream critics review it. All have been favorable, and we've won 4 awards in film festivals. And we're only, a couple of months into it. So it is very well received. We did a lot of studies and had a lot of credible people on it. So now it's considered to be the most effective film, and it's I believe the best tool that we have in waking up the public to this issue. So we're just breaking into the mainstream markets who've been favorable, which we never thought would be possible, but it is reaching the masses now. So we're very excited to be a part of it. And these programs are what we consider, those of us who have really researched this, to be the greatest crime in the history of the world. The environmental devastation, which hopefully we'll get into, and then the human health implications are just unquantifiable. So yeah, it's been been well received, and we've just began. So by the end of the year, we should have several million people awaken.
And if you aren't sure, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a new listener to the broadcast, Mike made 2 films so far, and it's not just him by himself. He's got a crew that's helped him out. Now, the second movie in particular, they've just gone above and beyond what you would expect with a documentary covering the type of topics that you're covering, like chemtrails or something. You would expect to see more of a I don't want to say low budget, but not. You guys really did a good job. It's not just, you know what I mean? It's not like a YouTube video slapped on a DVD and then shipped out there. And it's not some garbage edited, fuzzy, whatever. You guys have experts in there. I mean, you went to the Geoengineering conference. You were down here. That's when I met you in person when you were speaking at the college. When that was around the same time that you filmed that footage from the Geoengineering conference. And these are real geoengineers talking about, we're changing the weather. You're screwing with the atmosphere. It is what it is.
Yeah, the film has been very well received, and it's actually, in terms of quality, Barry Kulski, who was one of the editors on the first film, he and I paired up for this, and he's done several Hollywood TV shows and edited several movies, and he brought his skills in together with the vision, and he had a lot of input in, but his involvement really brought it into, as good as any Hollywood film would be. So I was really blessed to have him as a co-producer. And, we're thinking about doing a third film, and we're going to partner because the business relationship in terms of working together has worked out really well. But the credibility of the people who we had on, meteorologist Scott Stevens, Dane Wigington, we had Mark McCandlish, who worked on a number of aircraft that could be used for these types of programs, and many others. And, of course, we included the geoengineers talking about their programs and how they affect weather. And geoengineers are very open about the consequences of their programs, which we're all seeing now. Some is ozone depletion. We now have a huge hole in our ozone. And they talk about droughts, that their programs will create droughts in some areas and floods in others. And when you put a particulate into the atmosphere, it acts as what's called cloud condensation nuclei. So when a normal cloud forms, it evaporates, and then the moisture condenses in the sky. When it condenses enough, eventually it falls as rain. However, geoengineering programs, again, when you spray particles of aluminum, barium, other toxins into the sky, instead of the water condensing on itself, it will actually condense on the metal particulate. The rain will actually drift. It will eventually fall, and when it falls, it falls as floods in certain areas. Exactly what we're seeing.
Yeah, they're bigger raindrops. They're not smaller. They're larger or clustered because the particulate matter acts like a nuclei, right, and everything adheres to it.
It does, and we're seeing rainfall and even snowfalls. That really are beyond what we've seen in history, and we're seeing droughts beyond what we've seen in history. And I just got back from Hawaii, spent a couple of months there where I do some work, but I do a lot of R&R as well. And when I left, I was shocked because I stay in the rainforest there. They have 7 climates on the island, and there was about 15, maybe 20% of the rainforest that was dead. A lot of dead trees, and of course it's the rainy season. When I got back, in October, I would say estimated about 35% of the rain, maybe 30% of the rainforest now is dead. A couple of reasons. They do have drought conditions over there in all the Hawaiian Islands, and again, geoengineering does create droughts. But then when the metal particulate, which what we're finding is a number of things, but the primary ingredients is aluminum, barium, and strontium. And when those get into the soil, They literally sterilize our soil, and a lot of plants and trees have root systems that will shut down when bioavailable aluminum is introduced. So the trees are not getting the nutrients and that they need, and they die a very slow death. So I would say those of us again who've studied this consider it to be the single greatest threat in the history of the planet. Just again due to the damage that's being.
I would agree, and I've noticed. I've even, I've taken videos. I know you've seen them on YouTube and stuff, and on Facebook. I know you've seen other videos. Plants are starting to be a lot of for lack of a better term, burning. It almost looks like chemical burns on plants. Mike, we got a break sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few minutes. More with Mike Murphy on geoengineering and why are they spraying our skies. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Mike, I can't help but focus on a big red flag in the geoengineering scam, and that would be what you and I were discussing a little bit off air, is the major corporations that are involved in this. And, it's funny, when we were discussing in the first segment while you were talking, I thought about this exact thing. Monsanto came up. As soon as you said aluminum, Monsanto came up. And you know why? I know you know why, but I don't know if the listeners know why. I know in fact, you have to get Mike's. I'm going to stop myself for a second. I'm going to plug Mike's movies. You have to get both of his movies. What in the world are they spraying? And then why in the world are they spraying? So you can have a basic understanding as to what's going on. Now, Mike, before we get into it, where can they buy both films?
On our new website, which is whyintheworldaretheyspraying.com. We also have a Facebook page, which we update every day with new information that comes into us. So a lot of people now are following that, getting up-to-date information about this issue. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, definitely, everybody. I said, I support Mike. I've supported him since I met him a couple years ago. And I'll support him, carrying on through, because he's a good guy, and both of his movies are well researched, and they're not filled with fantastical ideas. The stuff that what you're talking about, it may sound fantastical, but it's all documented. It's all very real. And the reason I brought up Monsanto before I stopped us to plug the movies was because when you said aluminum as one of the ingredients, that's a key thing. When people say, well, why would they spray? Why would they do that? Don't they understand they're poisoning their own food? Yeah, they are poisoning. Technically, they're poisoning their own food supply. But a lot of these people have their own greenhouses and stuff that, on property that it doesn't get tainted. But go ahead. I'll give you the floor. Explain the connection of these large corporations like Monsanto to this geoengineering, because I think that would help a lot of people who may be on the fence going, I don't know if this is real or not. Look, when they hear the term Monsanto, everybody knows Monsanto is evil. I mean, even little kids know Monsanto's evil.
Right. Well, there are three areas, that of corporations that benefit from this. There's no question that weather can be manipulated, and it has been manipulated. They actually used it back in the 60s, and that's probably when they perfected it. And it was actually in a project called Project Popeye, where the U.S. military actually flooded out the Vietnamese main supply line, the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And in doing so, they had a strategic advantage by doing this. And weather control has been around, again, for a number of years, and it's come a very, very long way. Now we have geoengineering, which we believe is the complete corporatization of our weather. And so getting back into the three areas that we looked at in Why in the World Are They Spraying, the first one was military. And we covered a document called Owning the Weather in 2025. And that's an interest in a goal of our military to completely own and control the weather. And the idea behind it is if you can control the weather, you can weaken your enemy. You can actually create conditions where their airplanes will not be able to get into the air. And the U.S. military now has all-weather aircraft that can fly in any weather conditions. So it's again been something that that has been used since the 60s because it's so damaging to our environment, and the implications are not fall very far away from where they actually do the weather manipulation. It was actually banned. There was a treaty, a UN treaty, called and why am I blanking on this? I guess because I took a little time off. But there was a treaty that banned this back in the 70s.
Yeah, it banned weather warfare between countries. It only allowed them to do it to their own people inside their own borders.
Right, and that was the loophole. So what we discussed in this film, and we spoke to meteorologist Scott Stevens about manipulation of the weather, and just going back to to kind of what broke the story, what we had noticed 500,000 miles ahead of a storm, we saw intense aerosol operations, and wondered why. So again, I spoke to Scott, and you can actually spray aluminum into the atmosphere, and geoengineers claim that putting aluminum into our atmosphere will cool the planet because it's very reflective, it's very light. And that's what their stated goal is. We found studies that indicate putting aerosols into the sky temporarily, regionally, cools certain regions, but they act as a blanket at night, and they actually trap heat. We've seen a great increase in nighttime highs. So anyways, getting back to that, what you can do, we found that aluminum not only is reflective, but it's a very effective conductor. And by dispersing and putting the blanket, this heavy coverage of aerosols into the sky, they actually have the ability, through the use of microwave technology or even HARP technology, we interviewed Dr. Nick Baggage, and they can heat that metal particulate up. And what it does, when you heat a canopy of this up, it actually creates a low pressure system because the heat will raise that area. And when the low pressure is formed, you can literally steer storms into certain regions or out of certain regions, like in the case of this summer. In this past summer, that we're now in a global food crisis, which breaks my heart because a lot of people are starving now due to this. But without question, over the summer, we definitely had an engineered drought. We'll talk about what corporations benefited from this. But it was interesting, Popeye, because I got several emails and several phone calls over the summer from people in California and people on the West Coast stating that there's no spraying. Maybe they've stopped the programs, and maybe your film your first film made an impact. And while we wish that were true, what we found on the over the Pacific, all aerosols, all the way from Hawaii, even the equator up to Alaska, there was very little sunshine hitting the ocean. That did a couple of things. What it did, it blocked the sun. The sun is required to get the normal evaporation to form storms. So we didn't have that, and then we had the cloud condensation nuclei occurring. But I did have the opportunity to go back to Chicago, and I think that's when we did our last show together. And they were having that huge drought, but there were a couple of storms that were in the forecast. So when they were forming, I actually went outside and I watched them as I did as a child, and I saw these huge cumulus clouds developing, and then thought a storm was going to blow in, and then boom, the planes would come back and forth, feeding these clouds, and within about a half an hour to 45 minutes, the storm would be what meteorologists called iced out. It would literally fall apart, and it would look like smoke, and that moisture would drift. Now, what we had here, obviously, was drought conditions in Europe. We had flooding conditions, exactly what is expected when you put this amount of aerosols into the atmosphere.
So, and you talk about this in your movie, basically we had a river of water floating around above our heads. It just wasn't turning into rain and falling back down to the earth. It was staying up there and hovering. And by the way, I have video. I know you've seen them on YouTube before, but I have stuff I've even never uploaded that I've recorded. Seeing the exact same thing that you just described, where you'll see a storm coming in, and they start spraying the outer edge of the storm. You can see it. You'll see the storm coming in on the horizon. You'll see them starting to spray in front of the storm, and within 45 minutes to an hour, everything's this hazy, gray, like, it almost looks like there's a fire. But the clouds and the structure of the clouds that were there are completely gone. Mike, we got a break sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. We will be right back in a few minutes. Go check out Mike's website and get his 2 films. I promise you will not be disappointed. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And during the break, I had to put my muzzle on, because what happens is you'll start to have a conversation and you'll bring up a good point and you'll be muted and you guys can't hear us, and we'll be 3 minutes into the conversation, and then when we come back from break, we have to go back. And a lot of times when you go back, you miss the little gems of the original conversation. And Mike and I were like, wait, we have to stop ourselves, because we just kept rolling. So during the break, you brought up an interesting thing, ice nuclei, and you were talking about they're actually manipulating snowstorms and stuff now. And I'll let you pontificate on that, but here's my thought on that. When we were discussing why, and I'll let you tell the listeners what you were telling me about the methane and stuff. But here's my thought. You know, with snow, you could also move a lot of water. Like if you wanted to move water to a specific location, you know what I mean? With snow, you can move a lot of water. So just an idea, that's all. Just a thought. I mean, you could, if you needed to, if you wanted to, I don't want to say steal, but if you wanted to take water out of one spot and make sure you put it in another spot, that would be an easier, I mean, you could do this with even rain. I mean, you could use the weather for a lot of things. You could use it for transportation system like that. You could use it as a weapon. You could use it to grow food. It's like you said before in your movies, it's like literally the power of God, dude.
It literally is, and if you control the weather, you can control the planet, every political system, every food supply. But what was interesting, Dane Wigington up in Northern California started noticing, and even Scott Stevens, the meteorologist, they started noticing it was snowing into the 40s, sometimes the upper 40s. Now, when you and I were children, which sometimes we kind of feel like that youthful, but back when we were growing up, it snowed typically around 32 degrees or below. Occasionally, you'd get a couple of degrees higher, due to different atmospheric conditions. But now, on a regular basis, what we're seeing is snowstorms into the mid-40s, sometimes very close to 50 degrees. And Dane found a patent owned by NASA, and it's called ice nucleation for weather modification. And it's something that can create artificial snowstorms. And it's real similar to the chemical process of an ice pack, that can sit at room temperature for years, until you break it and chemicals mix together, and then it forms into ice, and it's very effective, for first aid treatment. However, when you put this into the atmosphere and the different chemicals, one of which I believe is lead, it can do a tremendous amount of damage, not only to ecosystems, but also human health. So it's interesting because the Chinese government started boasting about their ability and the fact that they've created artificial snowstorms, but they quit bragging about it when it did over $1 billion or $1 million, I think $1 billion worth of damage over Beijing. So what we're typically seeing, we're seeing rainstorms, and all of a sudden it'll flash to snow very quickly and then go back to rain. And, of course, those are the areas where they're spraying these chemicals into the atmosphere. So it's a deep concern. And Northern California, where Dane Wigington again lives, we're supposed to go up there, a few of us, and we're going to do some interviewing and also work on his land. He lives on 2,000 acres overlooking Lake Shasta, and we had to cancel our trip because there was several feet of snow, which was planned, and the entire snowstorm occurred, I believe, around 40 degrees. And Dane was up for just a couple of days. And the reason he was up for a couple of days, this is when they put these chemicals into our snow, it's a very heavy, wet snow, like a concrete snow. So he was up getting the snow off of his roof because, of course, it can collapse roofs. but it was breaking his heart because they planted a lot of trees, and he has a lot of favorite trees on his property, and he could hear all night a couple of things. The one which really disturbed him was the branches breaking. The snow has been breaking branches on trees. It's destroying our forests. But another thing, he heard the planes, all night, just what appear to be putting chemicals, these chemicals that will create this process into the storm. So,
and that's another point, by the way, that we were discussing during the break, was how much damage and not just in one area, but in multiple areas could you do with this just one super wet, heavy snow storm? Think about it. I mean, from the insurance companies making a ton of money to the contractors who, the large corporations that might, own somehow, some way, whatever, a small contracting company that happens to get the job to go in and do all the cleanup, whatever. You know how it is. And then it also, if you look at it from the eugenics agenda, right, they want to kill off a large percentage of the population. Well, right off the bat, they know that this heavy, wet snow causes massive problems. One, trees fall down, so people are going to get crushed by trees, tree limbs, right? Roofs are going to collapse. People are going to get crushed by that. What about all the people shoveling the snow having massive amounts of heart attacks? I mean, I know this sounds crazy to think that that's why they do it. I'm not saying they create snowstorms to make people have heart attacks by shoveling snow. I'm just saying, if you realize the amount of damage, if you actually sit down for 5 minutes, I mean, look, that was 30 seconds. And look how far we went. Can you imagine if you actually sat down and thought about monetarily how much damage would be done from one snowstorm?
Absolutely. Yeah, and weather is a big moneymaker, and that's one of the areas that we covered in terms of motives for these programs. And I heard something that really shocked me when we were researching this, and it was the fact that weather is being traded on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I'm going to repeat it again because my jaw dropped. I was just shocked. Weather is being traded as a derivative on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So we flew to Chicago. I interviewed a trader, Michael Agnew, who was familiar with this. He informed us of the companies that would be interested in these types of derivatives, and essentially what they are, it's a product that can hedge, that a company can use to hedge the risk due to adverse weather conditions. So we used a couple of examples, and the first one was a company like heating energy companies. Let's say if you're a gas company, you require winter to have X number of days below 30 degrees, and it's a particularly warm winter like we're having all across America. Companies can purchase these, and it will offset the risk. Another example he used was a seed company. So let's say if you're a seed company, you have $5 million worth of crop in the Midwest, and you have a drought. If you invest in $10 million worth of these derivatives, you actually make money when the crop fails. So I'm not saying every person that trades these derivatives is involved with weather control, weather modification, but without question, there are certain people at levels who are in cahoots with multinational corporations that do know what the weather agenda is. And if you have the playbook and you have the ability to bet, you cannot lose. So weather was a huge moneymaker. This drought that we had last summer, some people made billions of dollars. Other people are starving to death due to that drought. So that's where we're at. So money is a financial incentive, but the genetic modification of our crops was probably what I see as being the complete end game. Money is usually used as an avenue to achieve objectives, but when you go beyond that, which hopefully we'll get into, is about Monsanto, other genetically modified companies who really benefit the most from these damaging programs.
Well, I mean, is it any coincidence that they have their fingers connected to this stuff and then they just happen to have a patent on, like, let's say, an aluminum-resistant seed? That's why I brought up the aluminum earlier. I mean, come on. Call me a conspiracy theorist, I guess, Mike, but, you know, when I see dots lining up, and there's a difference between connecting dots that don't connect and then, you know, having the numbers go 1, 2, 3, 4 and tell you how to connect the dots. You know what I mean?
Tell you how to. Right. Well, that was an area that we looked into, and we did a couple of things. I interviewed several farmers in Maui where I spend a lot of time.
I'm going to cut you off.
Going on break?
Yeah, we got the break sneaking up. What we'll do is, on the other side when we come back, we'll pick up right there with the farmers that you interviewed in Maui, because I remember the video footage of this from the second film. Again, people, you got to see at least the second film, but I suggest you see both. Check out Why in the World Are They Spraying.com. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of the first hour. Final segment with my guest tonight, Mr. Michael Murphy, good friend of mine and filmmaker. Mike, you just won an award, or 4 awards or something?
Yeah, Why in the World Are They Spraying has won awards in most of the film festivals that it's been in, and it'll be in several more. So we expect to really break into a new market with the film festivals, and we need to do that. We have to hit critical mass to expose this issue, or we won't have much of a planet left in a couple of years. That's why it's so important.
Yeah, this stuff is really scary. And like I was saying before, you know, I've seen plants, especially, you know, after getting to know you, chatting with you about this and spending time, you know, actually more and more time focusing on keeping an eye on it and, you know, paying attention to the chemtrail phenomenon, what's going on with plants and everything else. I've noticed, like I said earlier, that there seems to be a lot of like chemical burns, I guess, for lack of a better term, on plants. Right.
Well, the belief that we hold is the fact that our ozone now is being decimated from these programs. So we're receiving more solar radiation. Actually, geoengineers are now calling their programs solar radiation management. So people notice when they go out in the sun, it's much hotter and they're burning much quicker than they did just a couple of years ago. And that's, again, because they're literally devastating our protective layer, the ozone layer. And I'll be blunt, you know, no ozone layer, no life on the planet. That's how serious this is. So they continue to spray, and this is it's about money and it's about power. So in the process, everything is being decimated. It's simply an experiment that will not work, but it's something people are aggressively going after. Bill Gates is funding this. We have a number of geoengineers, now a number of corporations, which we plan to expose in the near future, who are involved with this. But the rainforest, I don't know if I mentioned this, in Hawaii, did I mention that?
You said like 40% of it is dead?
I would say about 30 to 35% if you go up, you know, take the famous road to Hana. But for Why in the World Are They Spraying, we interviewed, again, several organic farmers, and many, if not all, have seen a significant decline in their yields since the programs have started. And one in Maui had seen a 60% decline just in the past 10 years. The other farmer had seen a 70% decline. So we started looking, and we found that this is common around the world. So we interviewed Barb Peterson. She's runs a website called Farm Wars, very involved with the genetic modification, enlightenment of people and the damaging effects that GMO foods have. But what she found was really interesting. What we're seeing is plant life and forest die to an issue called abiotic stress. What is abiotic stress? Abiotic stress is everything that the chemtrail geoengineering programs create. It's too much moisture. It's not enough moisture. It's heavy metal contamination, and it's fungal overgrowth. Because these programs block our sun, we have more fungus that's growing and destroying our crops. And she brought, you had mentioned the aluminum-resistant seed. There is an aluminum-resistant seed, but what we think is more significant is Monsanto's new seed that they patented, and it's an abiotic stress-resistant seeds. So again, it addresses everything that the chemtrail programs create. So they absolutely benefit from this. And what it appears this is, I kind of had the revelation in Maui because I live on an organic farm when I'm there. And many of us are dependent on nature. You know, a lot of people grow their own food and literally depend on natural sunshine, rain, and natural seeds. And the epiphany was this. Through the death and destruction and through our ability or inability now to live off of nature, we have genetic modification. And this is something that's discussed in most major religions. I think the Bible calls it the beast, and they say the beast rises up and wants to be worshipped. So if you look at this, when 100 years ago, when farmers didn't get rain, and many of our ancestors, they actually did rain dances, prayed to the living God to send natural rain. Now what farmers are doing, when the crops are destroyed, they have no ability to live due to the financial circumstances, they have to go into this Monsanto genetically modified seed. There's a problem with this. Historically, farmers have used seeds from the past crop that have regenerated, and they've been able to plant with that. Many of the seeds that Monsanto now are genetically modifying are called terminator seeds. They won't re-germinate. So the farmer's stuck. They're in bondage. They have to go back and forth to Monsanto. We have another list of environmental implications and human health implications by genetically modified seeds. So what this is, and there's even a company, it's a spin-off of Monsanto, it's called Arbigen. Arbigen is genetically modifying forests. So it looks, again, like through the death and destruction of nature, of God's creation, we have this genetic modification that's taking place, and that genetic modification is literally the usurping of the authority of God and bringing it under corporate authority so that men in these entities can literally have godlike power. So we're looking at a circumstance in the future, because when we live in Maui, in the way that when we live off of the land, corporations do not benefit, they don't gain power. So they're destroying that. They're destroying our ability to do that. And
what would you say to somebody that says, okay, you're telling me all this stuff and it just sounds crazy. It just sounds, why would they do this? They have their own kids, they have their own families that live on this planet and eat the food and have to breathe the air and drink the water. Doesn't it affect them? What do you say to somebody that comes to you like that?
Well, it absolutely does. And these metals are showing up on blood tests of people around the world in thousands of times the normal amount. So what I believe is this. I believe that, well, no, I don't believe. Power is an addiction. Godlike power is a very strong addiction. And many of us, and many of the listeners have had a family member or somebody who they know who has become dependent on drugs. And in that addiction, they literally put their health and their family members' health at risk in order to get the rush from the drug. And how much greater of a rush is godlike power? I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't want to mess with that. And I think that's what we're seeing. People who literally, it's insanity, will do whatever they have to do to get this power, including hurting themselves and hurting their family members.
Well, just look at the guys that lit off the atomic bomb. This is a fact. More than half of them thought that when they lit the atomic bomb off, and I'm not talking about the Germans who did their testing, I'm talking about the scientists here in the States when they were doing the Trinity test, when they lit off the first bomb here, they thought that it was going to cause a reaction which would ignite the atmosphere all over the world and destroy the world. And they still went ahead and did it anyway. So that just goes to show you the mad scientist mindset of these people. I mean, they're insane. They're the people that should, when you remember the old 80s and 70s movies with the sci-fi, with the campy, even back in the 60s, the campy mad scientist that was going to try to take over the world with the crazy hairdo and the wild glasses. Those are the type of guys that are actually doing the stuff like this, except they don't have the crazy hairdo. They wear suits.
They wear suits, and they're very well hidden, very articulate. They have scientific studies. It's insane. And I've spoken to a number of geoengineers and really been following their progression on selling this to the public. So it hasn't been widely broadcast on the nightly news, number of reasons, because the very people who benefit from these programs, the corporations, literally fund, our nightly news. But anyways, they have, very in-depth studies about these programs. They look like they're very well-informed, and they are very well-informed. They don't have integrity. They don't have concern for the planet. They don't have a concern for the people on the planet. And Bill Gates, is a funder of these programs. It's public record, and he is also a eugenicist. He believes that there's a population problem, and that it's his job to help solve that problem. So we're literally, again, dealing with people that don't value human life. They value power, and they're selling this to the public. And unfortunately, some people buy into it. But we're at a vital time for geoengineering. Geoengineers are now calling for emergency geoengineering due to the methane release that we now have, which now appears to have been created by geoengineering. So they're using that as an excuse not only to create global governance. They say we have to create a global governance to monitor these programs. If not, there would be wars fought over who would have their hand on the thermostat. So they're establishing this. They're moving forward very quickly, and they want to get this past the public. That's why we have to get behind this movement, establish ordinances in local areas to ban spraying. We've started one that you can see in Maui on Maui Skywatch, MauiSkywatch.org. But it's essential that we move forward. But yes, they're very articulate, appear to be well informed. But their interest is not for humanity.
Yeah, their interest is not for humanity at all. It's like the opposite. It's completely dark and twisted. Mike, we're out of time. Go ahead and plug your website one more time really quick.
Great. Information can be found at whyintheworldotisspraying.com. And Popeye, we encourage everybody who purchases DVD to make copies and hand out for free. A very effective way to reach out to your community and get critical knowledge.
Awesome. Mike, you are a gentleman and a scholar. It is always an honor to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is January 2nd, 1/2/2013. 1/2/2013. It's kind of weird to say 2013. It always takes me at least 2 weeks to get used to writing the new date. I'm going to be screwing that one up. I'll be typing 2012. I'll be writing 2012. It is what it is. It's the way it always works out. So I'm glad Mike was able to join me for the first hour and discuss the movie a little bit, go over geoengineering and chemtrails, really, because that's the important issue. And you have to see his movie. You really do. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, if the listeners still aren't sure, Why in the World Are They Spraying is the sequel to What in the World Are They Spraying? If you have any questions, just go watch the movies. Go watch both of them. Watch both films. And then afterwards, if you still don't believe it, then go out and do the research yourself, and you'll see that there's all the evidence that they show isn't made up. It's not like some blogger in a basement came up with it. There's patents out there. I mean, weather manipulation exists. It's existed since the 60s, at least. Actually, it's existed since the 50s. The British were messing with it. The British messed with it back, I think it was the late 50s. They ended up flooding out one of their own towns or little villages. So, I mean, this stuff goes back a long time. In fact, Mike and I were talking about the Chinese, and we forgot to mention that. We mentioned it briefly, but we could have gotten into it a little bit deeper. The fact that the Chinese, they boast about how they can make it snow. The Russians boast about how they can manipulate the weather and make it snow or not make it snow. I'm not kidding. Go look this up. Just Google Russians can make it snow or make it not snow. It was like 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I have it on FederalJack.com. I have an article about it. It's got to be, 2.5, 3 years old. Just go to Federal Jack. Just type in Russia makes it snow. I'm sure it'll come up. Or just Google Russia makes it snow. If you don't want to go to my website, you want to go somewhere else, I don't care. You want me to be impartial, go to another website. Just Google it. Or whatever, Scroogle. Or I don't even think Scroogle exists anymore. I think they got bought up by Google or attacked because of the name for copyright. I don't know. Somehow all the good stuff always goes away, right? So, go check his movies out. Why in the world are they spraying? What in the world are they spraying? Sit down, watch them with an open mind. That's all I ask. Not trying to make you change religions or make you take a pamphlet or anything else. By the way, before I forget, I have to plug something. Otherwise, I'm going to forget to tell you guys about it. I have talked about it on air. I said that it would probably take me until next week, Wednesday, but nope. I got done a week early. The downloadable / playable, because you can play it on anything, plus you can download it. Usually it'll give you the option depending on what you're using. If you're using like an iPhone or a Android phone or an iPad or something to that effect, you'll probably end up having the option to either play or download it. I think the Apple stuff usually just ends up playing it with whatever player or is in there, or it might give you the option, but I think it just automatically, if I remember, because I tested it, so if I remember correctly, it automatically plays on Apple, like an iPod or an iPhone or an iPad. It'll play automatically. Android, it'll give you the option of downloading it or playing it online. PC, it'll just automatically, it'll give you the option of playing it, or you can right-click it and download it. And I don't know how it works with Apple computers like an iMac yet. Now, what I'm talking about is I created a downloadable archive. I've been talking about this. You know, I have an archive page already with YouTube and everything. It's got the shows listed from oldest to newest, and they're all linked to the YouTube channel. Well, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm not stopping that. But as an added perk thing, whatever, to help spread the show and help people get exposed to it, make it easier for you to listen to it and others to listen to it, and for people to spread it around to each other and get the knowledge, the information that's out there, because there's a ton of it. I've been saving my shows. I've been archiving them since day one. And I've often talked about creating a downloadable archive. Well, I did right on the server, federaljack.com. So now you can go, and all of the shows that I've done are there. Any guest spots on anything I've done, it's all up there in MP3. And because I wanted to, the reason I took so long to do this is because I was trying to figure out the best way to make it user-friendly. And the way we did it, this old school directory listing, it works with everything because it's so basic. That's why I did it that way. Because I've had people ask me, why would you want something so basic? Wouldn't you want plugins where it automatically plays and it does this and does that? No. Because if I have all that, then it has to be compatible with this phone or this iPad or whatever, or this computer. This way, this is an old school, bare bones, basic directory listing of MP3s. It'll work with anything. And I know because I've tested it. I tested it on an iPhone. I tested it on an iPad. I tested it on an Android phone. And I've tested it on PC. The only thing like I said, I haven't tested on is like an iMac or a Mac laptop, like an Apple laptop. But if it works on an iPad and it works on an iPhone, then I'm sure it'll work on a computer where you can actually go and click links and stuff like that. Those things are smaller, portable, and they're touchscreen, and you can open it and play it, and it works with them. So, no excuses. Now, everybody's going to say, Popeye, where is the page? How the hell do I get there? Well, for one, I'm going to put up a couple access points to it on Federal Jack. Like I'm going to put a banner up on the front page so you can just click on it and it'll go to it. But if you go to the archive page on federaljack.com, my same archive page, as soon as you open the archive page, right there at the top below the photo, there's the picture, the description of my broadcast, and then right underneath that you'll see there's letters in all capitals, and it says, hey, click here. This is where the downloadable link, the downloadable archive is. This is the link for it, blah, blah, blah. It's right there. You'll see it's a hyperlink. If you click that, it'll bring you to the page. Otherwise, I'm just going to give you the address, and it's really, really simple. It's really easy to remember, I promise. Okay? You ready? You don't even need to write this one down. It's that simple. federaljack.com/Popeye. That's it. federaljack.com/Popeye. And it brings you right to automatically to the directory listing. So that's what I've been working on behind the scenes for a little while now. It's my gift to everybody. It's commercial-free broadcast, by the way. I've cut out all the commercials, so there's no bumpers. There's no, you hear a bit of a bumper when you hear me, going in and out of break, but there's no commercials and, long dragged-out bumpers or anything like that. It goes, from segment to segment, very clear. It's all 128K audio, and the best part is it's free. That's why it's my gift to you. So knowledge is probably the best gift you could give to anybody. And I've been thinking about it, and I could have, if I wanted to, I could have made it so that you guys had to pay access. You had to sign up and pay $10 or $5 or whatever to get access to it. Maybe in the future, if I had some huge operation with my own studio or whatever, I would do that because I would need to do that. And believe me, I pay money out of my pocket. It's not like I make money doing this, but I try to still do this for free and keep it free for everybody because there are people out there that I know I have it tough, but there's people out there that have it rougher than me, and those are the people that I want to be able to have access to this information. So I'm trying to make it as basic and cost effective as possible for them to have access to the information. So that's why I do what I do. So with that in mind, that's why it's so simple. That's why it's not super, fancy flash and all this other garbage. It is what it is. So go enjoy it. federaljack.com/Popeye. It'll be updated every few days as I do new broadcasts. But right now, everything is up there. So they'll spray the skies and then destroy the atmosphere, destroy the soils, right? Whatever else they're destroying, right? But they won't do anything about that. Don't worry about that. But let's worry about 75-watt light bulbs because they're a danger to the world, and they're causing man-made global warming. They use up too much energy and they're a waste, so they have to go. What am I talking about? Well, as of January 1st, federal law dictates that 75-watt light bulbs can no longer be produced or imported into the United States. That's right. I will repeat that. As of January 1st, which was yesterday, federal law dictates that 75-watt light bulbs can no longer be produced or imported into the United States. Now, you can get those garbage curly Q bulbs, or you can get the LED bulbs now, but they're really expensive. Now, the LED, I don't see any side effects compared to the other ones that are filled with mercury, but the LED bulbs are super expensive right now. I mean, I'm sure they last longer than the, maybe an average bulb because they're LED, but still they're pretty expensive regardless. And I don't see them coming down anytime soon. But as of January 1st, as of yesterday, 75-watt light bulbs can no longer be produced or imported. So the retailers are allowed to sell whatever stock they have left, and then that's it. Like today, before I went on air, I went and dropped about $70 on light bulbs. You think I'm kidding? I bought nothing but 75-watt light bulbs. I cleaned out the local store. As soon as I realized what was up, I went. My wife said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going over to the store. So I'm going to buy some light bulbs. I'll be right back." I came back with bags full of light bulbs. She looked at me like I was nuts. Even the kid at the counter, when he was ringing me up, he's like, break a lot of lights in your house? And I was like, no. It's like idiot Congress. They pass laws that are stupid, and one of their stupid laws that is passed is this light bulb law. By the way, a lot of people don't realize this stuff was going to happen a little bit. I would say maybe like a year. I think it was like about a year ago, maybe like a year and a half ago. It was supposed to happen, but they pushed it back because there was such an outrage about it. And what they did was they tweaked it. So instead of putting it in all at once, they're doing it in incrementally. First, they did away with the 100 watters. You go to the store now, you can't buy 100-watt light bulbs. You can't find them. You can't. If you do, it's because they had a couple extra on the shelf, but they'll be gone. So what's left? Well, by 2014, traditional 60 and 40-watt bulbs will also be phased out. Better stock up now. You like regular traditional spotlights? You like regular traditional light bulbs? Well, you do? You don't want to have the mercury bulbs? When I mean mercury bulbs, those curly Q bulbs. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know this, when one of those things breaks, technically, you're supposed to have a hazmat team come in. You're not supposed to touch that thing. You're supposed to quarantine the area. Men in white suits are supposed to come in with breathing apparatuses on. Oh, yeah. Bet you didn't know that, did you? Those things are deadly. Why are we having those in our houses where they could fall over and break easily and release into the carpet? What happens if that stuff spills into your carpet? You're done. You're done. That's it. Your kids, your pets. And if it's in your carpet, forget about it. I'm sure you'll never get that stuff out. But hey, let's worry about regular old school incandescent light bulbs. They're horrible. They're destroying the planet. Because that's what we have to worry about. And that's what they're doing away with. They're taking away your right to choose. So instead of doing it all at one shot and having everybody pissed off, they're doing it very slowly and incrementally. First, the 100 watters went. You can't find them. Like I said, if you can, good luck. Grab them while you can get them. 100-watt light bulbs are a thing of the past. You would have thought that those things would have been around for forever, right? No. Thing of the past. So now, 75-watt light bulbs. They literally want, they're going to force you to have these curly Q bulbs because they know it's better for you. These are the same people that can't avoid their, the quote-unquote fiscal cliff that they created. They can't deal with any. How many times have I talked about politicians being the most useless thing on the planet and that they do not solve any problem whatsoever? They actually cause more problems and create more issues than they actually solve, right? So they criminalize, they outlaw light bulbs. Federal law dictates federal law. The states ought to just manufacture the damn light bulbs and tell federal the feds and federal law to stuff it. Outlawing 75-watt light bulbs. And I didn't realize, I knew. See what happens? I knew that this stuff was going on too. I had known that they were going after the light bulb still, but they had kind of slowed it down. And still, we get distracted because, and I'm not saying we took our eye off the ball. There's just so much going on that, even someone that's on the front lines, hip deep in it, can't concentrate on everything. And here we go. Now it's 75-watt light bulbs are gone. I assumed that, and this was wrong, I shouldn't have assumed it, but for some reason I was under the impression that the 100-watters were going this year, and then they were going to phase out the 75-watters later on. I didn't realize that it was that close and that we were that far ahead already. So that's nice. So now you have a choice between super expensive LED bulbs or the cancer-causing curly Q bulbs, which then I've also seen some stuff to say that I know they've talked about those bulbs, using them in some way in the future. And I'd have to look at the whole system to be able to break it down and explain it properly. But something about they'd actually be able to listen to you via the light bulbs. If you think I'm crazy, I'm not. They have light poles out in the middle of the street now that not only have speakers and bark orders at you, but they listen to everything that you say. Certain MTA buses and transit buses, and even not even just in New York, but elsewhere, same thing. They're monitoring everything that's going on. They're listening to the conversations because they say, well, You never know. There could be criminal activity going on, so we have to monitor everything. Really? Let me go check the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and see if that falls under any of the, let's see, like the first 10 amendments, right? Well, let me see. Is there one in there that says total surveillance and groping, police state, X-ray scanners? No, I don't see that. I don't see TSA. I don't see that listed. Let me see. First Amendment, freedom of speech. No. Second Amendment, guns. Okay. Shall not be infringed. Well, gee, all these are getting infringed. Let's say, no, I don't see TSA, police state, X-ray scanners. Nope, don't see it. I can't seem to find it, ladies and gentlemen. I've been trying to go through these documents. I'm going to need more time, but nowhere that I can see does it say that we need this or require this. And this is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. What's next? Seriously. You want to know what it's going to look like? Remember the other night I was talking about the call to ban kitchen knives in the UK because people are getting stabbed? And there's actually chefs that are like, well, there's certain knives that we don't need. And it's like, are you kidding me? This is what it's going to get to. Oh, no, it's not going to get that far. Look, the UK's a couple steps ahead of us, and they're trying to ban kitchen knives. What happens next? Well, somebody sharpened a spoon, so spoons and sporks gotta go. Unbelievable. We'll be right back. I saw this next story I'm going to talk about earlier today, and I knew I had to put it off to the side and discuss it tonight because it just pissed me off when I saw it. And I had made a note to myself to bring this up because I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to discuss this. This is from today. Remember, schools were supposed to go back in session today, right? Kids have been on vacation, talking to their parents. Not too long before vacation for Christmas kicked in, there was this horrific shooting, and then since then, all you hear is gun control, gun control, gun control. Guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are no good, gun control, gun control, gun control. Well, today, a, quote, Batman, and I'm doing air quotes because that's what it's in the title, a Batman threat closes a Virginia school. That's right. WTVR in Virginia. And this comes actually it's let me see, WTVR.com, and I guess they're picking up one maybe from another maybe a local affiliate there. It's from WDB7. So two different networks. Anyway, check this out. It's just ridiculous. And this is the local CBS. Okay, so it's the local CBS picking up a different network. Obviously, they're working. I guess they pool together, video feeds or whatever, and they're working together, and they're picking up the story and linking back to the other one. But you got to hear this video, and I'll explain my theory in a second. But I want you just to hear it before I taint your thoughts. I want you to listen to the broadcast first, formulate your own thoughts, and then I'll let you hear what I have to say. It's only like a minute and a half, but listen to this, and then I'll let you hear what I think.
After the New Year break, but not in Giles County. Virginia State Police found an online article that caters to conspiracy theories and UFOs, and it has them worried about the safety of school kids there. Elizabeth Harrington has more.
The article is entitled "The Next School Massacre Target?" It's posted on a website that caters to conspiracy theories and UFOs.
We have to take this as serious information.
The article connects the Colorado movie theater shooting to last month's shooting in Connecticut and then to Narrows. The author uses a scene in the latest Batman movie that shows a map of attack sites. One is called Sandy Hook, the other is Narrows. The author writes that it's plausible schools in Narrows, Virginia might be in danger.
We just want to emphasize that no threat has been made to any school system here in Giles County.
But police aren't taking any chances. On Tuesday, police issued a reverse 911 call to parents about the article. Sheriff Morgan Milliron says his office has received many calls.
If I was a parent and I did not know about this, I would be upset. And you can't blame a parent for being upset.
Giles County also canceled school on Wednesday. Instead, it will be a teacher work day, but there will be plenty of police.
The sheriff's going to be at the school. We have some of the investigators. I'll be at one of the schools, and we're going to brief all the teachers and staff.
When students return on Thursday, there will be extra patrols around all 5 schools in Giles County.
And again, that was Elizabeth Harrington reporting. The online article is not under investigation at this time since no direct threats were made.
Of course, no direct threats were made. Even the cop said no direct threats were made. You see, this... And there's 2 ways you could take this. I mean, you could take it that they're just trying to demonize the alternative media. But I don't know if it's just that. I think it's a mixture of things. It's not just one thing in general. This is like a perfect storm of crap. And a lot of this plays into what I was talking about reporting about erroneous garbage and reporting just because you want to be the first person to get the story out and you want to get the hits to your site, or you want to be the person that we were the whatever whatever website.com. We were the first ones to get it out. We wrote the exclusive article, or our host, or whoever. And this rush to get crap out, he puts out garbage, and this rush to find conspiracy where there is none. And I'm not saying that there's not shady stuff that went on with that shooting. I'm not saying that at all. There is. I even have questions. But pointing fingers at stuff that's obviously like, come on, you're stretching for stuff. Stop looking there. That's the kind of, or don't blow it up like it's the total truth, and then the next day you're like, oh yeah, well, okay, it wasn't really the total truth. We were a little off, but moving on. You keep doing that, people aren't going to take you seriously. And the other problem is, right now everybody's operating on this fear vibe, right? Because that's what's being pushed by the mainstream media. You have to be afraid. Guns in your sock drawer are teaming up with Al-Qaeda in your closet, and together they're going to get you. They're going to work with the homegrown terrorists inside the house. I mean, that's the ridiculous level of this. There's fear being pumped out 24/7. So right now, everybody's on edge, right? Everybody's upset. Little kids getting shot, or it's not something comfortable. So people are really emotional right now. The powers that shouldn't be, the people that are playing the game of chess, not the chess pieces, which is what we are, but the people that are actually playing the game, they understand this. As humans, we are much easier to manipulate when we are upset, when we're not thinking. Why do you think they always propose some sort of draconian legislation right after some horrific event, right? After 9/11, the Patriot Act. After a school shooting with little kids, we need to ban guns now. And by the way, why is it that the people that would consider themselves to be the liberal left, and I say consider themselves because I don't buy into the left-right paradigm, but you consider yourself to be a liberal, you're a self-proclaimed screaming liberal, why is it that those people are the first people to scream, let's kill, if they don't agree with my rights or your rights? Why are they the first people to scream, let's kill them? Especially when it comes to being anti-violent, right? And I say that because I saw an article in the Examiner today. There's a Des Moines columnist that's calling for a repeal of the Second Amendment and death to gun owners. It says, repeal the Second Amendment, the part about guns anyway, it's badly written, confusing and more trouble than it's worth. It offers an absolute right to gun ownership, but it puts it in the context of the need for a well-regulated militia. Well, we don't make our militia bring their own guns to battles, and surely the founders couldn't have envisioned weapons like those used in the Newtown shooting when they guaranteed gun rights. owning a gun should be a privilege, not a right. Declare the NRA a terrorist organization and make membership illegal. Hey, we did it to the Communist Party. The NRA has led to the deaths of more. The NRA has led to the deaths of more of us than American commies ever did. He added, right? Because the NRA is responsible for nutbags stealing guns. Because the kid that killed the kid that shot these students up and shot the school up, supposedly, or allegedly, he stole the weapons from his mother. He stole them. Tried to buy guns, couldn't buy them. So laws aren't going to do anything. Well, banning them. Oh, so he wouldn't have gotten a rock or driven a car over kids or something? Come on, something was wrong with the kid. But no, let's treat the symptom of the problem. Let's not actually treat any of the problems, right? No, let's blame it on an inanimate object. So this guy wants to make, let's see, where did I leave off? He says that the NRA has killed more people than commies. He said they should raise the organization's headquarters, clear the rubble, and salt the earth. The term salting the earth, by the way, comes from the practice of actually throwing salt in the earth so that you wouldn't be able to grow any food in it. It would, taint the earth. After saying he would make ownership, quote, ownership of unlicensed assault rifles a felony, he announced that he would punish such ownership with the death penalty. If some people refuse to give up their guns, that, quote, prying the guns from their cold, dead hands thing works for me, he wrote. Isn't that nice? So, we have to ban guns for people's safety because people are getting hurt, but if you don't give me your guns, I'm going to kill you with guns. Does anybody see the circular argument there? And the idiocy? Well done. Well done. Think you need to go back to the corner and rethink that. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of tonight's broadcast. Wow, that went by very fast. Make sure you tune in Friday. Vince Palomera is going to be joining me again. We're going to be going over a little bit more info into the Kennedy assassination, but then we're going to be going over other presidential assassinations as well, and the different things there, and why you need to look at them, why it's important that we go back in history and look at these different assassinations like Kennedy's and all these other presidents. So you'll see. I don't want to spoil it. Make sure you tune in Friday. And tomorrow, make sure you tune in because Joe and Tim have Mr. Chuck Woolery coming on. That's right. Mr. Chuck Woolery, Mr. Game Show host himself, will be on tomorrow with the Freedom Link crew. And I think they're going to be picking his brain about guns and freedom and all that good stuff. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. I know I'll be tuned in. For real, it's going to be interesting hearing Chuck Woolery destroy the gun haters. And I heard Joe played a clip from him the other day where Chuck Woolery was going off about people that were calling for gun bans and stuff. I mean, anybody with half a brain can see that that's a bad idea, right? And does it make any sense? Your neighbor's house gets broken into and your neighbor gets murdered. So in order to feel safer, everybody in the neighborhood gives up all of their weapons and hides in their house in fear. Well, yeah, and then lets everybody know it, too, and puts it out there on the news. Hey, Mr. Killer, we know you killed the neighbor, so in response, we're going to give up all of our weapons and we're going to hide in the corner. Now the killer's like, oh, well, okay, cool. I'm going to take, let's say, Betty Martinez over at 123 Easy Lane over there. Well, she gave up her guns. Well, now I can just go kick her front door in and do whatever I want. I mean, people, come on. Doesn't make any sense. That's like we're reacting the exact opposite of how you should react. Think about it. You're being manipulated. Oh my God, somebody could come in and shoot you. You're not safe. So what do? Well, you see that gun over there? That thing that makes you equal with the psycho crackhead that would be coming in with a gun? So that way if he had a weapon, you had a weapon, you're both on an equal playing field? Yeah, give me your gun so that way now if somebody comes in with a gun, you don't have one and now you're just a victim. Well, how does that make me safer? Trust me, I'm from the government. It makes you safer. That's exactly what they're doing. I'm from your government, and I'm here to help you. That's what they're doing. Trust me. Come on. I would never hurt you, right? Come on. Let me ask you a question. Where are the government agents? Where are the government bureaucrats? Where are the politicians? Where are the police at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're in your house by yourself and somebody breaks in to do you harm? Oh, that doesn't happen, Popeye. No, unfortunately, the world we live in today, there are still people that are stuck in that level of consciousness, that base consciousness. And they think like that, and they don't care about killing or raping or pillaging. I'm going to tell you what. Somebody breaks into my house, tries to hurt my wife. I'm going to kill them and worry about it later because it will be it'll be self-defense. I don't care. If I lived in the state and some bureaucrat in the state said, well, I don't think it's self-defense. Well, I'm glad you don't think it's self-defense, but what you believe to be real and what the laws of the universe, natural law, there's two different things. Just because some bureaucrat says that you don't have the right to defend yourself, wrong. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. It's as simple as that. And unfortunately, in this day and age, you usually are judged and you're ripped apart and everything else. But I'd rather be judged than 12 than carried by 6. If I'm in a place and something bad is going to happen to me, I don't want to not be able to protect myself. Trust me, I've been in a situation where, since I've had the ability to protect myself, when I first started carrying a firearm back in the day, I didn't always carry it on me. I said, I don't need to take it on me every day. I don't need it. And, I've been told by guys that had been carrying longer, oh, you'll get over that. Something will happen one day. And I'm like, yeah. Well, something did happen one day. One night I was walking home from work. It was about 1:30 in the morning. And I where I lived wasn't the most savory section. And I was walking home. And 2 guys tried mugging me. And I reached for my gun and I realized I didn't have it on me. And I was like, uh-oh. And then I reached for my knife, which I usually carry as a backup. And I didn't have that on me either. And then I was like, oh, great, now what do I do? So now I grabbed my phone and I pretended it was a gun, which bought me enough time because the guy wasn't sure because it was dark out, and it bought me enough time to get 911 dialed. And by the time the guy hopped out of the car with a knife in his hand, I may add, I had the phone up to my ear and I just smiled at him and I started giving a description to the dispatcher of what they looked like, and they hopped in the car and took off. What did I honestly want to do? I wanted to put 3 rounds through the door as soon as he stepped up and got out of the door, and he produced the knife, and I saw it. And I told the police, too, when they got there, I said, I really feel like a dick. And the cop said, why? You did the right thing. You didn't get stabbed. Nobody got hurt, blah, blah, blah. Why do you feel like a dick? I said, well, because I have a concealed weapons permit. And I showed him. I said, and you know what? I don't have my gun on me. I said, if I had my gun on me, when that idiot stood up and got out of the car, I would have put 3 through the door and he would have been done. I said, now these guys got away and who knows, they're probably going to go mug some little old lady. I said, all because I wasn't smart enough to carry my firearm on me. And the one cop was shocked. He looked at me like with these 2 big silver dollar eyes. You could tell he was younger. And the older cop that was there, the sergeant, he was like, well, you would have been in your right to blast him too. That's exactly what he said to me. See, down here in the South, we have certain laws. I know people don't like the stand your ground law. They think it's racist, but believe me, from someone who actually could have used it that night, I could tell you that it is an equalizer. What got me out of the situation was the fact that I can think very fast on my feet. I've always had that ability, but not everybody has that ability. And that's why a gun is the great equalizer. It's like the old saying goes, God created all men, but Sam Colt made all men equal. Right? You could be 350 pounds and a big tough guy. You go to pick on some little 4'2", 90-pound woman, and she produces a 357, and she puts 4 rounds through your chest, and you drop to the ground dead. Well, I guess you weren't so tough after all, were you? It is the great equalizer. Holland Van Nieuwenhoff does a show here on the network, and he made a good point. Guns in general as technology helped humanity evolve to where it is now. I know people don't want to hear that. People don't want to know guns are bad. They kill, 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 kill. The only thing guns do are they wake people up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they say, we have to go shoot people. We have to go cause mass casualties. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. No, of course I'm being facetious when I say that. The intent lies within the person. The gun as a tool has really helped humanity evolve, or at least our evolution from where we were when we first found the technology. And then when we first found the technology, look at the leap. You think you really want to see something interesting? Go look around the Civil War time when the gun technology started to take a giant leap, and then from there start to look at everything else. And I'm not saying that the guns are responsible solely, but again, it is the great equalizer. When they were out in the Wild West, do you think they were sitting there, if my 10-year-old son gets his hand on a rifle, he's going to go to school and have a mass shooting? No. The kid might have been the man of the house. The father might have been dead. That kid might have been the one that went out and hunted and protected the mother and his sisters from whoever. Did we have mass shootings back then? No. Did we have SSRI drugs back then? No. Did we have big pharma? No. At least not like we know it now. Come on. It's not kids being around guns. It's not the guns that are going to do it. There's other factors. And blaming an inanimate object and reacting on emotion is not going to solve anything. All it's going to do is set you up down the road. You know, I was listening to Joe when they were interviewing Larkin Rose tonight. Larkin made a good point. You know, after 9/11, everybody was all, yeah, whatever, love the government. A couple years later, they were like, what the hell with the Patriot Act? You know, now people are that window of understanding is much faster. People aren't buying it anymore. But still, even after 9/11, within a few years, people were starting to go, I don't know if my civil liberties and giving up all my freedom is worth it. Giving up your freedom for safety never works. It's been done before. It does not work. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Don't give up your guns. Don't give up your rights. You are the answer to your problems, not douchebag politicians. Remember, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. All right, I'm out of here, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all. I'll catch you all again Friday. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night for Joe's broadcast with Chuck Woolery. Till then, I'm out of here.